you're suggesting it's a similar severity as last week? It didn't get worse?
No.
We talked about how so many of these games have been one-score games at the end, and you just haven't gotten over the hump. What are the different ways you can address that? Because it might just be one play in any phase that could make the difference. How do you approach trying to make that happen?
Yeah, I think you got to acknowledge we're right there. We do have the opportunities. You got to start with having opportunities to compete and to win games at the end of the game, and so then it comes down to the specifics and the details. It's fundamentals, it's techniques, it's execution. From my standpoint, always trying to figure out, from a game management standpoint or from a schematic standpoint, we're giving ourselves the best opportunity. Is there another way to navigate this? And so I think everyone's embracing that. We can all keep growing and keep finding better opportunities to move forward and make the plays or take advantage of the opportunity that's presented. So,
notice in the game, you ran kind of a traditional sneak rather than a tush push. Is that something you kind of decide in the game planning ahead of time, or?
Yeah, you can do either. Obviously, by game plan, it kind of varies from game to game, and so you also have to be conscious of just the way that play has been policed necessarily. The last few weeks, and so we did feel like there was an opportunity there to run a more traditional sneak, and so it worked out well.
So the officiating maybe being a little tighter on it, that's a factor.
You just got to be aware of it. Yeah, you just got to be aware of that. And so, by no means is it, gone forever or anything like that. Week to week, you kind of present short yards, see what the opportunities present themselves, what advantages there may be, and so we'll see what happens.
What do you think the challenge has been for you guys on 3rd and 8 and longer? And I know you probably should have had one last week that it was close, but just in general, what's been so tough about that situation?
Yeah, we obviously haven't taken advantage of those, and those are challenging situations. The numbers are down, but we got to at least convert on a few of these. And so, I think there's a couple different ways you can go. There's obviously the plays where we got to protect it a little bit longer, give ourselves the opportunities to get past the sticks. At the same time, there are opportunities where there's catch and run, chances. And so we got to play the fine line between those two philosophies. Every week's a different challenge, and we just got to take advantage of a few more.
When you've been studying Caleb, is it noticeable to see how much he's improved under Ben Johnson? Is that noticeable when you watch what he's doing?
Yeah, he's doing a really good job. I think when you watch it, second year tends to be a big jump. We always call it the sophomore jump or whatever you want to call it, second year jump in the NFL. And so you can tell he's just so much more comfortable. Ben's doing an awesome job of giving him different tools, and they do a great job of schematically getting to the best calls in some situations. And so you can tell there's a comfort level there. There's an anticipation that certainly is growing from his standpoint. And in his back pocket, he always has the playmaking ability that he's always had going back to college. And so it's a really challenging thing because you can feel like maybe you cover something up and he's going to make a play out of it, and then he's doing a much better job as he's gotten more experience of just playing the original play really well.
When you were evaluating that 24 quarterback class, I mean, you got Spencer's in that one, you got Caleb, you got Drake May, Jaden Daniels. What did you think of that group when they were coming out? Has it played out like you thought it would?
It certainly was a really talented group, and so I was in Philly that year, 2 years ago, and so we were in a little different situation. So I didn't get to get the depth of the evaluation. I evaluated purely off of film. Really talented group, and a group that could certainly see a lot of these guys contributing in a lot of fashion around the league. And so the high picks, they're kind of playing the way you anticipated them playing. They're growing, and they go through different experiences in their first year, and then the second year you can tell all three of them I think are playing at a really high level, and the depth of that class is starting to show up. Spence is doing a really good job, and really proud of the way he's continued to grow each and every week.
Now that you've studied the Bears a bit more, are you seeing new wrinkles with Dennis Allen's scheme?
Every place is going to be a little bit different, just because you're going to have a foundation from a systematic approach, and then you're going to evaluate your roster and kind of make the adjustments necessary. I think the biggest thing is their defense is playing fast, physical. They're playing obviously with a lot of confidence. The turnover thing is real. It seems like every year there's a couple of these teams that just they're making them happen each and every week, and so certainly they're on that trend line. They're doing a great job of attacking the football. They had 3 this past game. You can argue they had 3 more opportunities that they could have gotten as well, and so. They're playing a very confident brand of football on that side of the football right now.
There was a report over the weekend that Mickey went to Alvin to ask basically if he wanted to stay here long term. Alvin gave his commitment. But with the trade deadline, what's kind of your role in that? Are you checking with players to see if they want to be here long term as it approaches? Like, how do you kind of handle that?
Certainly my main goal is to, take care of the players, but also, be as successful as we can each and every Sunday. And so that's really my focus. I certainly care about these players as people. That's a really important aspect of this thing for me. As far as that part is, I allow Mickey to kind of roll with that and, defer to him in a lot of those situations. And certainly we'll have conversations as we go, but we love this group. It's a bunch of really good people. We got the right people in the room. Love these guys. I want these guys to be really successful here, first and foremost.
Do you think Alvin, like his philosophy with that and his loyalty and his love for the team, organization, and whatnot, like how much of a positive effect do you think that can have on the other players and really everyone else in the building?
Yeah, just speaking from my experience with Alvin, Alvin's a phenomenal player, phenomenal person. He represents so much of what we want to be, and he's represented this community really, really well. And so, we love having him here. We love having, I'm excited for his opportunities to keep growing this year. We'll keep getting opportunities. He deserves them. He's earned them. He's had a huge impact on this organization for a really long time, and we look forward to him having that impact moving forward for a while as well.
When you evaluate the quarterback, like you got your data points over here, and there's like winning also. Like how do you weigh those two things together, and like how much does like getting a win matter? Like how do you weigh that into like kind of the evaluation?
Yeah, that's a fun, healthy conversation. That's certainly a good conversation, I think. You got to trust. Ultimately, our job is to win games, and we got to win games. And I know that. Spence knows that. We all know that. But as you go through the process, you really got to hone in on the details of it. The details, the opportunities that you're presented, and are you taking advantage of those opportunities? And so what I do see is, playing a lot of really successful football, a lot of clean football. We do have some small margins that we can grow in some situational football in particular. All these QBs go on different paths, different journeys in this league. I think that's the cool example of this. If anything, this year's, I think, emphasizing the journeys that all these quarterbacks take are all different. The guys that have gone to their second or third stop that are having success, the guys that were in last year's class that are kind of having that big bounce this year. Obviously there's plenty of the crafty vets who've been doing it, like Matthew and Dak and these guys for a long time. And so all these guys are on different journeys, different paths, and it's about growth and taking advantage of opportunities.
Spencer's history with Caleb and what happened at Oklahoma, how do you think that shaped Spencer in terms of going through that adversity? Did you see a positive effect with it? Have you ever talked to him about it or anything?
We really haven't talked about it. It'd be unfair for me to even really comment about the context of what happened there. All I know is Spence is a resilient person, resilient player. Again, I think, if you look at our quarterback room, you'll recognize a trend. A bunch of guys who faced adversity and had to have some resiliency in their life, navigating some things. Certainly in college, all of our guys kind of had to go through a challenging aspect there. And so I respect that out of people. I have a ton of appreciation because that's what ultimately playing quarterback in this league's about is we got to win. We got to go be successful, but every game, every week, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be obstacles you got to be able to navigate, and so that's certainly a superpower of Spencer's, in my opinion.
Do you obviously coached in different places, and I know people move around and it's a nomadic business, but like when you went back to Dallas for the first time, was there extra juice or motivation, and do you understand maybe that could be for Dennis and even for the players in some capacity here, for this game?
Yeah, no doubt. We all have these kind of reunion games, so to speak, or, fall back to our past experiences and you play, common places, common opponents, common people. You have a love and appreciation for people, A lot of guys got drafted here because of Dennis, and so there's an appreciation for that, and Dennis has done a lot of good here, and so, there's that element of there's going to be a lot of appreciation to see Dennis on the other side of the field. I have a ton of respect for him. Like we said, we've compete against each other a bunch of years over the years. It seemed like whether I was in Dallas or wherever, we always played New Orleans. And so, I think it'll be a great experience for those guys. Obviously, you're always excited to have that opportunity, if you go somewhere else to coach. And so it'll be a fun opportunity for everyone.
Common parlance would be revenge game. You prefer the term reunion game?
Yeah. Pick your noun, adjective. I don't really care. So.
Maybe you talk to the guys about it all, like the reunion with Dennis and whatever, because you obviously mentioned all of it from your perspective. Do you talk to the guys and maybe have big relationships with him and whatnot beforehand?
We haven't. No, it's not really been a topic about from a team perspective or anything. these things happen a lot in this league. They truly do. Between the players, between the coaches, every week you're playing someone that you're, friends with or you've worked with or whatever it may be.
You mentioned the turnovers earlier.
Yeah.
When you think of a Dennis Allen defense, what are some of the hallmarks of his defenses?
Yeah, I think play style, they're fast, they're physical, they play with confidence, they got the swagger going, they stop the run, they create turnovers. And when they put you in third down, obvious passing situations on third down, the pressure's alive, and so you got to do a really good job planning and preparing yourself. And then you got to understand that there's going to be some good moments, there's going to be some challenging moments in every game, just because they're going to be able to make plays.
We're doing a story about why quarterbacks do or don't wear the play sheet on their wrist. Why did y'all decide to do that with Spencer, and kind of how has it helped him?
Really good question. So last year was my first time. I did it as a player going back all the way to college. Now, college, you don't have the headset and all that sort of stuff, so it's a little bit different dynamics. We never did it anywhere else I'd ever been. When we went to Philadelphia, that was the first time I had exposure with it. And I felt like there was some value to it, being able to speed up just the communication process, being able to give him a wristband number as opposed to reading the whole play out once or twice to him and then having him echo that play. I think it's helped us speed up the process a little bit. Sometimes, as much as I don't want it, sometimes some plays get a little long, a little wordy, and maybe there's some criteria in there about a potential adjustment to the play, and so he's able to see all that on that sheet. And so we don't do it for every play. It's just kind of select plays, handful of plays, and so I think it's helped us just speed up the process.
There's some teams that don't do it because they're concerned the wristband might get lost, or is that ever a concern for you?
We have not had that experience, but yeah, there's some experience like that, and there's some quarterbacks who really don't want to do it, and so everyone's a little bit different. I get it, but it's worked really well for us.
Do the plays on the band change week to week?
Yeah, it's based off the game plan.
Do you like to see Spencer take more risks, or is he executing what you guys are?
Spencer's doing a really good job. We got to create some more explosives. That's a lot of different ways, not just chucking it deep. So we'll get him to try and we'll have some opportunities downfield, but. Explosives come in a lot of different fashions. They can come in runs, quick screens, quick game, and then break a tackle, and you got everyone else blocking for you. And so we'll just keep working that way.
You mentioned a few times some quarterbacks that have kind of had second lives. What do you attribute that to? Why they might not work early on, or is it just experience, or is it fit, a little both, or guys like Geno Smith or Sam Darnold?
No, I think it's a really healthy discussion. I think it's really cool that our league's kind of recognizing it. I think there's a lot more conversations about these guys. There's timing and being in the right environment. And, the timing thing is real. Being in the right situation that kind of matches you systematically, who you're around. And you got to be built up kind of over the course of time. I think a lot of these young guys, we throw them out there really fast and we decide yes or no within a handful of games. And then we move on and try and find the next thing. And so, these guys get to continue to grow each and every way. And if anything's taught us, I think, over the last couple of years in our league is that these quarterbacks, they're 23, 24, whatever they are when they come in. These guys all play into their 30s, and they have tremendous careers as they just continue to progress. And so, there's too many guys that we can speak of and create a storyline about these guys. And I think Spence is, following some of that trend line as far as just getting better and taking advantage of these opportunities.
With the tush push versus the just regular sneak, is that, do you think it's kind of at the point of the cycle where teams might start moving away from it, whether it's officiating, whether teams are adjusting, and just from a broader perspective, how much do you have to adjust your foundations based on the trends, or is it, hey, this is my offense?
Yeah, the sneak thing, everyone's got a different way of approaching it. There's a lot of different ways. It's truly a trend. It's going to go back and forth. Teams are going to push it still. Some teams may not push it. It may be week to week. Again, we've navigated it from week to week so far, and so we'll continue to do that. And then as far as just trends in general, I think that's an important thing. You're always trying to evaluate the league. What can we continue to improve on? What can we maybe expand on, get ahead of some of these trends? And then there's always different styles and different ways, whether it may be, the way a certain play is being officiated moving forward, or, the way teams have adjusted to a certain formation or play. And so I think that's the fun part of this thing. You're just continuing to try and evolve each and every week. And so we all have foundations. We all have things we believe in, core values, but you got to be able to move off the spot and continue to grow each time too.
Thanks, Kellen.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty. How we doing?
After looking at the tape from last week's game, I mean, how much of a step forward do you think you took against New England?
I think it's just another week, still building, still working. Felt sharp. Need to finish in the red zone as a group better, but it's just another week.
You're watching that defense on Monday night with Chicago. The one thing that stood out was the turnovers. Is that kind of the same thing in terms of just like what this defense can do?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think they're first in the league with creating turnovers, so we got to respect that, and we got to be on our A game protecting the ball, in all positions. So that's a main focus this week, especially playing these guys, and we're gonna have to be dialed in.
Spencer, like, how do you, when you're looking at this offense, you're doing a lot of things well, and just not necessarily clicking in certain areas. Like, how do you view that? Like, when you're doing things well, but it's not all kind of coming together. Like, whether it's red zone, third down, whatever the case may be.
It's a group thing, we know we got to fix it. We know we got to clean up in those areas and make it happen on game day. We get down really good within the 20s, it feels like, and then we get down and kind of stall out, if it's whatever it is with penalties, you name it. I think back to the game, we had just a couple penalties that we could have possibly scored on, and then a couple missed opportunities in the run and pass game. So we just got to clean it up overall, but just keep playing.
What's it like going up, against Dennis Allen, former coach here? Could there be any, advantages of that? Maybe knowing him a little bit better and whatnot. And what do you think of his defense?
Yeah, I mean, I was only here a year with him. Obviously he's a great defensive mind, does a lot of different things. Been doing it a long time. He's really smart. I mean, I remember, last year in camp and stuff like that, with having to deal with all those looks. So he's not going to make it easy, that's for sure. It's going to be a challenge. We know he's going to bring it, so we got to be on our A game.
Spencer, obviously, if you're going up against Bears, Caleb's going to be on the other side. What did you take from that moment a couple years ago when they put Caleb in the game and your pass kind of diverged from there? Like, was that ultimately part of what got you here to this point?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I think it is what it is. We all have our own paths, and we got to do our best with our own path. So it is what it is. The past is the past. We're focused on the present and the future. But I would say, yeah, that definitely led me to South Carolina, and it was a blessing in disguise. That I got to play with the Gamecocks and develop there, and get ready to go to the league after that.
So what did you kind of learn about yourself during all that?
I mean, just how to deal with adversity. I think, it's not the first time a quarterback has had to go through that, so I'm not the only one. But, adversity. It's the quarterback position. It's what comes with the job, and you got to deal with it and move on to the next.
Do you have like a friendship relationship with Caleb, or it's just kind of curious?
Cordial, I'll say what's up to him at the game, but I got respect for him. Good player.
I'm going to ask you something that's probably impossible to answer, but like, where do you think your pocket feel comes from? Like, it seems like it's like one of your. Is that just that's you? You were born with, like, you got out there and that was you, or did you build that?
Well, I appreciate that. I think since playing as a kid, being able to run around a little bit, feel the pocket. Obviously, a lot of years of work and still got a lot of room for improvement. Just wanting to feel that time clock in your head. You got to play with a time clock, especially at this level. You don't got much time to get the ball out, so you got to play fast. You got to play with good tempo, have good feet, and try to get the ball out. But it's just that natural feel, I guess you could say, on top of a lot of reps and just working it throughout drills and practice.
When it starts breaking down, like, does your heart rate go up, or you just ice cold, like, just it's normal, like?
Sometimes you get a little, you want to run around a little bit, make something happen, but you got to stay somewhat controlled. I feel like last year I got a little too frantic in some situations in the pocket, and then that turns to sacks or negative plays. So if you can eliminate those negative plays, which I think we've done this year pretty well within the pocket and getting the ball back to the line of scrimmage or making something positive out of it, I think that's the key to keeping the chains moving.
Is that just the point of development, when, maybe something's a route's taking a little longer to develop than you expected, and you have to kind of just buy time inside the pocket? Is that kind of a point of development for you in year two?
I think just more reps, more experience, seeing things a little better, feeling a little more comfortable, in the game. But yeah, I mean, you do have to buy some time at times. I know, as quarterbacks we're taught, be it 10 yards in that pocket so you can step up and let your tackles do the job of washing them by, which I think they've done a great job. But sometimes you might have to get to 11 and then step up just to create a little time. So I think it's all just based off feel and if the pocket's clean or not.
It seems like you guys are like pushing it a little bit more in the Sox game. Is that like, do you want to like push it more? Or like, is that up to you? Like, how does that balance kind of work?
Yeah, you love to push it down the field. If it's play call in the huddle, if it's tempo, you love to keep the defense on their heels and try to take your shots at your guys down the field one-on-one, see if we can make a play. As a quarterback, you love that and definitely want to do more of that and give my guys more opportunities down the field.
To the point of the, not being frantic in the pocket, like, you always hear guys say they want to play in the preseason to feel a hit, or like, how real is that to feel one, get up, and like, does that settle you down at all?
I wouldn't say it settles you down. Maybe for some guys, but I mean, I think it's just sometimes you got to take one to get one, down the field, like that's what we say. You got to take one to get one sometimes. And but a lot of times, you want to protect yourself. I think you don't want to take any dumb hits, any bad hits where you can get injured. So that comes with getting the ball out on time, comes with the O-line blocking well, and route timing, depth, all that ties into one. So it's a lot more detail than people think.
Spencer, have you noticed anything different about Kendra this year as a teammate? Just after, is getting healthy for him, or is it like a mentality shift or anything like that?
I think a little bit of everything. He's always been a great player. I know he was a little banged up last year, and with that whole deal, but it's like a fresh start for him. Ever since camp or OTAs, he's been full go, and got the system down. You give him the ball, he's going to make something happen. So I think his confidence level is high, and he's a really good player. You got to keep getting him the rock.
That's just kind of going back to Oklahoma again. Is it crazy when you think about just the run of quarterbacks that came through that program, through that span with you and Baker, Jalen, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys in the league for sure. It's pretty funny, but yeah, a lot of guys from OU in the league playing quarterback. So pretty funny stat.
You played one, obviously, in Pregnant last week, and you'll play Caleb this week. Whether fair or unfair, people are always going to look at that 24 class. How do you look at that? Do you mind if people measure Jaden and you and the guys from that class together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good class. We have a strong class. I want to say all of us are starting, and I like to put myself up with any of those guys in that class. I've been competing with those guys since high school ball. I'm still doing it to this day. So, I love to compete against those guys, and definitely want to, be in that, want to be mentioned in that group. Because I feel like confidence-wise, I'm up there with those guys, and we could all play.
Spencer, we're doing a story about the wristbands quarterbacks wear during games, and what have been the pros or cons of wearing that for you this season?
We wore it last year as well.
Or just in general, like what you like about it, if there's anything you don't like about it?
I think it's really just good for the super wordy play calls where you can get in and out. It might be a 25-word play call. Just makes the communication a little clearer for everybody. But if, we don't have to use a wristband, but I think it's a good bonus to have.
The offensive line group, just being able to go week to week with the same 5-person group, how helpful is that for you, or does it matter to you? Does it change anything?
I think you could see numbers-wise, we're doing really well with limiting sacks and negative plays in the pocket. They're doing a great job up front, out wide, in the middle. Thought Caesar played really well last week. Trevor, is back feeling good, and we lean on those guys, we trust in those guys, and they've been doing a great job.
Thanks, Spencer.
Thank you.